Well, I'm either live or I'm not live. I can't really tell on my laptop. And somebody give me a thumbs up if they can see me, and then I'll know. Anyway, let me have a look. Joe, give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Okie dokie. Right, I've got the chat now. I can hear you as well. Well, you've got Mark to thank for this live. We were actually in the car the other day and we were travelling back from somewhere, weren't we?
Yep.
And we were talking about when I do my Saturday premiere, I always end up with lots and lots and lots of questions afterwards, and it takes me about an hour after the show to just go through them all. So I figured we're all friends, so just throw your questions at me. Let's have a Q&A. And I want to talk a little bit about the cases that I spoke on tonight. And towards the end of the live, I'll give you an update on some of the things I've been doing. We spoke tonight about, I think our first case was the Hatman, wasn't it? The Slender Man. And it was Daniel's case. And he saw him when he was a very young boy and he was walking home. And I wanted to share an experience that I had when I was about 7, and it was a dream. It was a lucid dream. I must say it was not an actual thing that happened, or I don't think it was an actual thing that happened, because I was asleep at my grandmother's house, and I must have been about 6 because my sister hadn't been born yet. And I remember being in bed, and I remember sitting bolt upright because we used to have the old army metal bunks, and anyone who's my generation will remember them. And all my hair used to get caught in the thing, and I had a big cut on my head there because I'd fell off the wall the day before. And I remember sitting bolt upright in bed and seeing this man thing. How do I describe him? He was coming down Hodge Lane, and he had like, you know, like what I call a D-mob suit, like a zoot suit, as he used to say, like the old gangsters in Wacky Races. And he had that kind of hat, like a fedora is probably the closest I can get. And he was all in black, completely in black. And he had just like a white face, really. He didn't really have any features or anything, but he had blood on him. Like he'd come out of the war or something, and it was dripping. And he was pulling his leg as he walked, so he was like, walk, drag. And in my head, I thought, oh my God, he's going to get to the front door before I can get there. And I remember trying to get everything shut, not leaving me bed, but in my head, like slamming all of the windows and the doors and everything like that. And I can remember how scared I was, even to this day. And it turned really even stranger than that, actually. My granddad used to get up really early in the morning to go to it, because he had to go to the stables and see to the horses. And that morning, after I'd woken up terrified, he was in the back kitchen. It was the only place we had a fire back then. And if you remember, in the olden days, they used to put the key on a piece of string at the back of the letterbox, which I know is ridiculous, isn't it? But that's what they used to do. And somebody had put their hand through and tried pulling the key. So whether that was anything to do with what happened to me previously in the night or not, I don't know. But what I can tell you is I can remember every single thing about that event, even today. Every single thing about it. What he looked like, how scared I was. And the question I wanted to ask you was, do you guys think that as children, we see things that would absolutely scare us the most? So for that man in the zoot suit, for me, was terrifying. But would he have shown himself to somebody else in a different form? So Anne's just asked me, let me scroll back, make sure I'm not jumping questions. Jojo's doing her absolute best to keep up with everyone. All right, let me look. What was one of the most frightening cases you can remember, Deb? Bempton. RAF Bempton, without a doubt. Completely changed me. I'd never go back to the place. 2 years ago in April, coming up. And from that visit, I've lost a lot of my health, my home, my sanity at times. So for anybody who doesn't know what Bempton is, it's on the northeast coast in Yorkshire, and it's an old, I'll get this wrong, it's either an army or an RAF installation, you know, something along those lines. And over the years, there've been some really strange creatures seen down there, number of missing people, and I've never been into the base, I've only ever been above it, but if you go down into it, you can actually check it out on Google. There are like satanic drawings on the wall and awful, absolutely awful things. And I think something attached when I was there. I think something attached to all of us when I was there. And I think that happens to other people who go to Bempton, because I've spoken to the witnesses themselves who've said that they've come back from there, they've lost their jobs, you know, they've gone into a deep depression, and it's really affected them. And I think the second place, Anne, where I would discuss that would be Cannock Chase. I've worked with a great number of... Mark's nodding away here while he's eating his stew. I've worked with a great number of people who have come back from Cannock Chase and had years and years of events. If you'd have asked me, Anne, what was one of the hardest cases I've ever worked, I would check with Glassy Gleamer in the chat and say, his has been ongoing for 20 years. And he won't mind me sharing, I don't think. He, in those 20 years, has had to keep all of that activity from the other residents who live in the home with him, because he didn't want to scare them or let on to them what was going on. And you get personally involved. They become people that are your friends, and then they become people that you love, you know, and you think about every day, and you go through the ups and the downs with them. So some of your hardest cases that you do can be your most rewarding at the end, if you get what I mean. Does that make sense? That's the most heartwarming. Also, again, I have to say Glassy Gleamer, because of Fred. Fred became somebody I cared about like my dad, you know, and I care about Glassy because he's been with me through that, and he's had to go through a lot of that on his own, and me being able to be there and help a tiny bit, only a tiny bit I've helped with. But I had to use my online, you see what I do online, but you don't see what I do offline, and I do a lot of shutting down of negative energy and entities and beings and things like that. And it got to the stage where something was banging on the walls and banging on the roof and making a right old racket. And there was once again a really bad property that had satanic worship done in it, and he was really brave and he went in and helped me shut that down. So me remotely from here and him actually doing it in person. But yeah, I'd say that was one of my most heartwarming. Seeing people come to me with absolute fear. I'm absolutely blind, I can't even see that. Thank you, kids. Coming to see people with absolute fear, and then see in the time after where they've worked through that trauma and they've been able to put it to bed, and then they say to me, right, Deb, next case that you comes in that you need help in, I'm happy to help you with that. Like Mark, who we see in the chat, he's lovely, he couldn't join us tonight, Mark. But his experience was absolutely traumatising, and at the time that it happened, he was injured. He had a broken arm and a broken leg, so he couldn't run away from the creature that he saw. And like many other people, I worked with a lady do you remember the Woody Bay one, Mark? It was beautiful, wasn't it, in Devon? Right in the cliffs. It was an old hotel and it was completely empty, and it was just surrounded by woodlands. Oh, you'd have paid him, you know, your life savings to just live there. It was an absolutely beautiful place. And she was living there with her husband and her family, and he wasn't supposed to smoke. He had COPD, and she was a bit annoyed that she caught him smoking. So this is a lady who has spent her entire life wild camping out there on Dartmoor, looking for the beast of Bodmin. She's, you know, she's something about her. She's got some brass in her pocket. And she said that night she walked out and she has a dog that has almost like, is it attachment issues, Joe? Probably about that. Well, the dog gets upset if she's not with it. So she said, even the dog wouldn't come with me. I opened the gate and the dog just sat there. And I said, well, you could F off, I know. And I stormed down the lane. And as I got halfway down the lane, I knew instantly that I'd walked into a situation that I shouldn't have been in. Like she felt like an instant intruder. And the land lies like this. Obviously, it's on the cliff edge. And she said something high up on the embankment was making a clicking sound, and it was being answered. It's all right, right? It's just me. It was being answered by something further down the hill, as if they were driving the deer down. And she said she just stepped like back and went back home and was absolutely terrified. And the first time I spoke to her, she was incoherent. She was absolutely terrified, and that's the only way you could put it. And I had to try and explain to her that I didn't think it was meant for her, or that they'd come for her, whatever they were. I think that she'd walked into that situation unknowingly, and that happens far more than people realise. And she even wouldn't put a name to it herself because she didn't see it, but she had the experience. So we're still in touch and we still talk now, but it was too much for her. She had to give up that beautiful place and move into town, and that's what she's done, you know, because she can't live there anymore. So people don't see that side of it on the back of YouTube, you know, the stuff that you do. Castle dude. Have I ever been to Shrewsbury Prison? How do I answer that one? Some people think I should be put in Shrewsbury Prison. I once went with my daughter, my youngest daughter. And like you, I have an interest in old buildings and castles. And if you not check Neil's channel out, check it out. Because he goes to some of the castles that I can't get to see, and I really enjoy it. So I'm there with my youngest. She was probably about 16, 17 at the time. And we stood outside this castle having our photo took like proper tourists. And this policeman-looking fellow comes walking up and says to me, you can't stand there and have your photo took. And I went, why? And he went, because it's a prison. So I was literally stood at the gates of Shrewsbury Prison, like this, taking a selfie. So maybe that was a prophet. What do they call it, Mark? A prophecy. Maybe that's where I'm going to end up one day. Do you know where I have been? Lancaster Jail. I went, not like because I've done something wrong. I went to Lancaster Jail because it's like a touristy thing, isn't it? And he pushed us all in this one cell and said, like, right, get in there. And that's what it used to be like in the olden days. And he just turned the light off, and it was awful. This energy just kind of fell with the darkness. It was awful. And we were all scrabbling to get out there. It was like an early escape room, you know, a plan. Oh, absolutely frightening. But yeah, I don't get to go to all these places. Mark loves it. Mark absolutely loves a castle, don't you, love?
Yeah.
I don't see spirit like other people see spirit, but when we went to Clitheroe, we like camping down there. And I was looking at some of the cases in Forest Bowland, so that's why we were down there. We had the TP. So we go to the castle, and they had a special day on for the kids. So they had to like go around and collect stuff and everything. And as me and Mark are walking through, we seen this old couple at the top of the stairs that go to nowhere. And they were like proper, all dressed up for the day, you know, like in the old-fashioned clothes and everything. And they were watching the children, weren't they? Quite happily just watching the children. And we took a couple of steps away and we both looked at each other again and we were like, did we just see that? And we stepped back and they'd gone. And the stairs that lead to nowhere, so you can't go anywhere from them. They would have had to come out past us. Just a bit confusing. Like, put it away and carry on we go. So we go do the whole attraction, and as we get to the end, there's a very old photograph, isn't there, Mark?
Yeah.
Of the couple who were the caretakers of the castle, and that's who we saw. And they were just watching the children quite happily. And it was just a split second thing. I can't think of any other cases what we've done on castles. Maybe if you've had an experience at a castle, write in and me and Neil can go and do it, because Mark loves a castle, don't you, love?
Oh, yeah.
He does. Oh, Lincolnshire's a scary place. I've worked some cases in Lincolnshire. Yeah, there's some strange ones. But no, you're not doing bad on your questions. So what have I been up to since I seen you last? Whew, where do I start? I've done a fair amount of work for some TV companies, so that would include sourcing witnesses for TV programs. So, you know, if they're doing a program on near-death experience, I find some witnesses that do that and put them into kind of, so that's where Freynar Productions got started. So it's like a production company that me and Mark have now. And we're doing the same for like podcasters and people like that. Podcasters looking for guests and guests looking for shows to go on. So we do a lot of that now. But that's handed off to the admin team. I don't have to do any of that. That all comes with the production company. It's really hard when you work in TV because there's only so much you can say, isn't there, because of those no disclosure orders. And you don't want everybody nicking your ideas either and running into another thingy with them. So I can't give too much away. But I've been in a number of shows over the last year and a number of shows going forward. And I was talking to people about starting a new YouTube channel. And I'll tell you for why now. I can explain it a bit better now. Over the last 12 months, I've been so busy with reports coming in that I've had to say to people, I'm really, really behind. So is there any chance I can sit you in the queue and when I can get round to you, I will. And a number of them have said, well, I'll go to the area where I saw it, Deb, and film it myself on my phone. And you can just share it. And I said to Mark, what a good opportunity. We could just start a new YouTube channel where that's what we do. So like if you go out and you investigate dogmen and you want to stand in the area and tell us about your dogman experience or somebody else's dogman experience and you want to send that video over, we can promote that for free. There wouldn't be charges or anything like that. And we would just go onto the channel and it'd just be me at the beginning say, you know, this is Jojo, this is where she was when she was having an experience, let's hear from Jojo now. So we're working on that. We've done a whole lot of filming on that. We've had some funny things happen when we've been filming. And we've had some weird serendipities. So I'll give you, for instance, it's a pity Kane's gone. I went down to Buxton on the A6 to visit the area where Kane had his experience. And I'll run through it quickly for anybody who don't know it. Kane and his wife Jackie in 2012 were in a car driving to Buxton. And the road was snowy and icy. And the car, there's not much of a wall between the road and the river. And the car went through the wall and into the river and they had to be rescued. And long story short, we went back to the area with him. And I'd spoken to him about it several times off camera. And this was just the day that we went to film. And we were there and we finished. So what happens is the guy set everything up. So like the audio and the camera crew and all of that set up. And Mark just brings me in. I do my interview. And then I get back in the car and I go home and they stay and they do what you call B-roll. So it's like shots of the area, or, you know, or shots of Deb leaving or anything like that. And they were flying the drone, as you do, and it ended up in the river. It must have been -2 that day. Really, really icy, really, really cold. And unfortunately, the guy who was the boom operator, not the drone operator, the boom operator, had to jump into the river and get it out. So that was a memorable day of filming. But yeah, so we've got lots of stuff like that coming in the future that I know you're all going to enjoy as well. And really, this live feed. Now, most people, when they watch a live feed, we're not daft. You turn the sound off and you chat away in there, and I'm fine with that. Because if you're getting on with each other in there, I can do that all day long for you. So if you like, I can do these after the premiere on a Saturday, and then I'm not, you know, taking anyone's day or anything like that. And I can't wait to get Deb and Stu back on. We've all had a bit of a year. We're all grieving in our own way for people that we've lost. So I'm on the edge of coming out of mine now, and they'll be the same, and they'll be ready to sit down and do this again. I've done a fair bit of work with Andy. You'll hear an interview with him next week on my channel. Me and him are going to do a couple of lives. But if you want to do a live with me, or you want me to come on your show and do a live, just, you know, shout up. I can chat for Britain. So anybody else got any questions for me? I'm trying to think. We've moved house. We're in a new place now, aren't we? We really like it. It's falling apart around our ears, but we really like it. It's a lot more icy and snowy than it was where we used to be, but we absolutely love it. Night, Steve. Have a lovely weekend, and hopefully I'll see you next week. It's nice to see you all in there chatting, I have to say. It really, really is. Yeah. I've had a bit of spare time on my hands lately, so I've been able to sit down and watch a few people's shows myself. And what I tend to do, I'm a bit sneaker. I don't tell people that I'm there, because normally when I announce myself in the chat, people start asking me questions and I think, oh God, that host is going to think I'm really rude. So I just don't tend to say anything. But I have been, over the last couple of weeks, I've actually been saying hi, like in the chat kind of thing. I haven't had any new cat reports, Kiz. But that might be because I've had to set up like an admin thing, so I'm having to triage the cases. So I've put, somebody else does all of the cat reports for me. If you don't mind me explaining how me and you met, I can say that online now. Kiz lives Macclesfield, so it's moorland, you got Macclesfield Forest. It is an amazing place, and it's high up on the ridge, like on the Pennine Fault. So it's lots of like steep valleys and high mountain ranges. And Kiz got in touch with me because he, one night, was in a bit similar to our flood this week. He'd had a flood upstairs, so obviously he was having a new floor fitted. And him and his beautiful wife, Mary, stayed downstairs that night. And they were watching it might even have been my show, I'm not sure. It could have been some other YouTuber, I can't remember him. He did tell me, but I can't remember. And basically, what he heard was a really loud, I can't do the noise, but a very deep, guttural growl from right outside the living room window. And obviously, at that point, they were both like, nope, let's just go back upstairs. And that's what they did. But when he went out in the garden, there was loads of, when you see like a cat make a mark on a tree? That's what it looked like in the back garden. And he said that the dogs were acting strange as well, didn't you, Case? That they were a bit wary when they were going in and out. Well, if you look at the big cat cases surrounding the area, they follow that fault line all the way down to like Alderley Edge and the Cheshire area. And I think there are so many big cats now. That's why they're being reported in the newspapers every week, because they used to be in the wilds, way out in the wilds in the 70s when we released them. But what people don't realise is that also happened in the Victorian days. There was a lot of Victorian travellers that would bring back exotic pets for their menageries, and they just, when they got too much, they'd let them go. And then in the 80s, it was farmers who were seeing them, like way out in the wilds, in like Scottish borders and places like that. And then you get into the 90s and you start hearing people seeing them who are hiking and a bit closer to the city. 2024, they're on the edge of the garden. So people are seeing them around their homes in city centres. Because most cities and towns in England are built on greenbelt land. You only go so far, don't you? And then you're on the farm fields and stuff. So I think, my own personal theory is, I think they've been able to breed without management for at least 5 decades, 6 decades. Each male cat needs a particular area to roam to service his females. So we're building more and more into the countryside. So we're getting closer and closer to them. And now I get very worrying reports from dog walkers who say that a cat followed them back to the car. Now, that is not cat behaviour. Normally, a cat and a human, the cat will turn tail and go off into the woodland. And these are kind of accounts where men are working on the railway and the cats are following them down the line. Or they're playing golf and the cat's on the golf course and it isn't scared. That's really worrying behaviour, because people say, oh, well, there's going to be an attack. There's already been an attack. There's a young boy was attacked. There was a guy in the lakes was attacked. A woman in Scotland was attacked, and a police officer. And he said the cat that attacked him was bigger than a black Labrador dog. So the attacks are out there, and I'm sure under the freedom of information we'd be able to find out how many actually more there was. But yeah, cat sizes are massively on the increase. Sussex, probably every week there's one in the paper. And it's had the opposite effect now. People are so used to them, they just stop reporting them, because you don't get any truth from the government, do you? You don't get, well, actually, yeah, there are cats out there, and you might want to learn about cat behaviour and how you should none of that. No, it's just, no, there is not. No, there is not. And that's it. That's not good. You're going to have unhealthy animals that are breeding in a gene pool. DNAs that's crossing because there just isn't enough fresh DNA to go around. I mean, it's got to be it can't be a massive population, can it? It's got to be a limited in being relative, if you get what I mean. I would say there's a few thousand out there, but I'm sure you need more than that for a better gene pool. You know, I don't know. I'm not Melba Ketchum, unfortunately. So female, Joe's just said females only need, what is it, 30 what though, Joe? You've only put 30 square mile. Pumas need 100 square mile. Can you imagine? That'd be in Scotland. Mark, where would we end up if we walked for 100 mile? Birmingham, Scotland, something like that. Pembrokeshire.
Any of those?
We could be in Wales. Me and him could be in Wales in an hour, couldn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to Wales. It's full of dogmen. No matter where we go in the country, no matter where we're filming or where we go on holiday, all I can think of in the drive is any report I've had from that area that contains a dogman, because it absolutely scared me to death. Which is kind of understandable. Have you had any wolf sightings? Yes, definitely. There's a case in Polkemmet in Scotland where an ex-police officer saw a wolf in a field chasing sheep. In Gloucestershire, funny story, I had a game camera shot of I think it was a leopard. I'm going to get it wrong, I don't know my cats. The black one, melanistic leopard it might be, yeah. And the person who sent me that also sent me a picture of a wolf in a field, and he said it was his game camera picture, and I put it out on YouTube, and the people who actually owned it got in touch with me and said, oh no, that, you know, that's not his, that's mine. And they told me the story behind it. And I've got it and I'm working on it, I just haven't put it out yet. And some of the images that were sent along with it was like a badger, and it looked like it had been pulled in half. Now, before you say dogs, let me tell you, when dogs and badgers fight, it makes a massive mess. And there's normally humans around when that's happening, and you know that that's happening. This is a clean carcass that's been torn into. And if anybody watched the interview that Virgil did for me, the gentleman in France, he said when he was driving down that road that night and he saw a female dogman bent down on one knee, she had two halves of an animal in her hands. So she torn a kill into two. Maybe that's something they do. I don't know. You know, I'm not an expert when it comes to kills. But yeah, lots of werewolf cases are dramatically on the increase. So I'll speak to you about the cases I did last week. Not next week, the week after. A video will come on called Northumberland Werewolves. And I've named it that because a lady got in touch with me who had an experience in 2023. Yeah, 2023. And I can't give too much away, but basically she's out with the dog and she doesn't mind walking at night, and that's what she's doing. She's just chilling out and she's walking the dog, and she knows that there's something in that tree line. Absolutely knows that something's in that tree line. And as she takes a step forward to try to find out what it is, something says to her, "You do not want to see me." It didn't jump out and get her. It didn't grab her. It warned her, and it said, "You do not want to see me." Right? That's one case. So I sit down and I talk to her, and I've got the interview done. All of that's done. Bing. That's another case. Hi, Deb. Actually, it was last Saturday after the premiere finished. Is there any chance I could talk to you about an experience that's happened? Like, absolutely, yeah, not a problem, but I'm absolutely full of a cold and I've just finished. Is there any chance we can chat tomorrow? So that's what we did. So once again, we've got a lady. But in this case, the lady has problems with her vision. So she was born sighted, but she's lost her vision over time. So she sees on her peripheral. And I think that might be why she's had this experience. So she's walking her sightseeing dog, who's only a little dog, a bit like Neil's, a bit bigger than Neil's, I think, only a tiny wiener, as we say. And she clips her onto a harness on the front, so that obviously as the dog goes off, she can't lose her. Do you get what I mean? So that's kind of what she's doing. She's missed a bus, so she's had to get off at a different bus. And every single one of us will recognise this. It's like, here we call them the bankings. I don't know what you call them where you live, but it's like an old train track that normally has embankments like this, and they pave it, like they tarmac it, and people walk up and down them for leisure, and you get idiots on scooters and dog walkers and all kinds of things. So it's kind of like that, and they, you know, they're up and down, and they take you through the city. And that's where she's walking the dog. It's about 5:30, so it's dusk. But there is street lighting. There isn't here on ours, but she said for her there was street lighting. And she sees a movement in the dark. And she said, I honestly thought it was some yob on a silent scooter or, you know, on an e-bike. And he was going to hit me. He was going to barrel into me. And what was strange was that the dog didn't react. She said normally she'd give me a warning that someone, you know, was coming towards me, and she didn't react. And she said it almost did hit me. It stopped a foot in front of me. And that's why I could see it, because it was so close to me. And I'm only going to give you a bit of the description, because obviously I want you to tune in next week and listen, and we'll discuss the case after the premiere. At least 8 feet tall, completely hair covered, but with dark black skin. You could see through the hair. You could see defined muscle. He had not a nose like an Alsatian or a German Shepherd. More like a Mexican hairless dog, or one of those Andean hairless dogs that you get. So a snout, but not like a German Shepherd. Yellowish eyes that were illuminating themselves and giving out light. And he kind of looked down at her like that. And then off he went into the woodland and gone. These two cases are 20 minutes apart by car. And you can reach one or the other by the green corridor. So are these two ladies dealing with the same creature? I don't know. So, Stu Hill, my right-hand man at BBR, it lives not far from that area, so I've handed the case over to him, both cases over to him, and he's going to contact the ladies this week. I've spoken to both of them, and he's going to contact them this week, and we'll probably go out to the area, and you'll get an update on the case, and obviously all of that. What I'm going to bring you is just the initial story, because I honestly feel that if they've had this kind of interaction, I don't think it's the only interaction they're going to have, because Glassy calls it the hitchhiker theory. Have I got that right, Steve? The hitchhiker theory, where they will follow you home, like somebody in the chat's just said, just like a dog. They can smell you. They know your intent. And that was a big part of the conversation that I had with her. And I said, it will have known your intent. She did dog rescue. That comes up quite often for dogman witnesses, that they do dog rescue or are really into, you know, animals and horses, and maybe they do tag on to your intent. I don't know. I've never seen a dogman creature ever. I can't answer for that. But we'd have to question, wouldn't we, why some of the cases are incredibly terrifying and others are not. Do you remember the case of Wolfie? Does anyone remember that case from last year? So we've got a young girl who lives in Scotland. And she first noticed it, or him, when her dad was really poorly, he was passing away. And at times of grief or loss or sickness, us humans are much closer to the veil. So I was actually I have a therapy group on WhatsApp for some females that are going through a lot at the moment. We're actually talking about it today, how after, you know, you lose a parent or a loved one, that paranormal activity acts up around us. And it does, because we're thinking about spirit, and they're thinking about us, and we connect quicker. Completely lost. I started thinking about my dad then and completely lost my thread. What was I talking about? Intent. Yeah. So I'm tuning in to these. But on the flip side of that, when you're sick or you're ill or you think things can attach to you, negative things can attach to you, yeah? So that's why I set up the group. It was about that kind of situation. And yeah, Annie did. He kind of protected it. It went more than that. And that's what I'm trying to get at. She would see things on the farmer's field as she was walking the dog. And he'd always be up on the embankment or something like that. So he wasn't near her, trying to scare her. But he was definitely interested in what she was doing and around her. And she told mum and dad. And Mum and Dad said, yeah, we know, don't worry about it, and kind of brushed it off like that, you know, as if they knew something, but they weren't going to go into details with her. And this is where it gets tricky in the description, because I've got to be careful what I say. Like most females in life, sometimes horrible men will attach to you and try to do things to you. And she had a neighbour that was just like that. And even though the police had to get involved, he was still allowed to live at that house. And she said I had to walk past that house in the morning and at night to see to my horses. And I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified of doing that. That he was going to get me, you know, he was going to do something like that. And then she said, there was this one night where she had to go and see to the horses, and she was just frightened to death. She was absolutely frightened to death. And as she's on the field, she sees a torchlight bobbing. And she's thinking, oh my God, you know, he's coming for me kind of thing. And it was a boyfriend. And her boyfriend said that when she left the home, something growled in his face. When he was in the flat, you know, almost as if say, get up and go and help her. And that's what he did. He got up sharpish and he went down to help her. But that wasn't the only time that he stepped in. She said there was another time when she had a huge mastiff dog. And she's only short and slender, like she's only tiny. And she said, I suddenly realised that this dog's behaviour was changing with me. It was becoming much more dominant. And I'm on my own. He's much bigger than me. And there's no one around. And I'm in the middle of the fields. And when she felt that fear, something from the bushes went, and this dog dropped to its belly and did what any dog would do when faced with a predator. So more than once, it stepped in and helped her. And much longer after that, she was ill herself. And when she came back from the hospital, one of her neighbours said that she'd seen a wolf in the garden and it was sat on the back step. So many years later, she speaks to Mum and Dad, sits down and speaks to Mum about it. And Mum said, when I was a young girl, I used to ride horses. I used to see a wolfman in the field. So I think that it's connected to the family more so than just Sammy, you know, through the entire bloodline. I'm just going to pick up on what Toadie said. Yeah, in India, monkeys are like squirrels, common and very aggressive. I've seen a black squirrel and they're aggressive. My friend Linda can attest to that ferrets are things. She had poor Linda had a ferret in her house and it bit her face. She ended up having to go to the hospital. And I was working once in the warehouse and there was a squirrel in there and I thought it was like Disney. I was just going to go and pick it up and take it outside. It just attacked, like, ah! It full on attacked me. Like, it was awful. So, yeah, be careful with squirrels. But monkeys, no, I won't get into monkeys. We've all been to safari parks here in England and they just wreck your car, don't they? Toadie's saying, I was walking with my wife down the street and suddenly 3 big monkeys swooped down and pulled her hair. Bloody hell, and stole her food. Yeah, just like seagulls. So, yeah, what time are we on? I know other people have got lives to go to, so I don't want to take up too much of your time. Because I already had you at 8 o'clock, didn't I? But yeah, let me know in the chat if this is something you want more of, because I will arrange it. Saturday night, I'm usually just sat around now, and I've got loads of time on me now till the next project comes up, so time to fill. But over this next week, I'm going to get some interviews together that I've got done, and they need typing out and putting together and voicing and getting on, and I've not had the voice to do it. I've been sick since October, but GPs doing what GPs do. It's this and it's that and it's this and it's that. And then the last diagnosis I got was it was the 100-day cough. So I gave in and I had some antibiotics, and I've got to be honest, they worked. I'm not a lover of antibiotics, but they did work and I feel a million times better. First time I've been dressed in a week. What are you kidding? So now we're going to touch on some rumours, aren't we, Mark? What current rumours are out there about me and Mark? Let's have a bit of that. Which one are you going to go with first, love, that we've split up? Yeah, I told you that one the other day. We've split up because you're really mean and you keep hitting me.
Too out.
Yeah. Yeah. I told you that. You was clearly not listening. You did the nod head and everything like you were listening. No, we've not split up, and he doesn't hit me. He's never raised his voice to me or called me a name, let alone. That we are brother and sister. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think our mum and dad would be right chuffed about that, would they? Yeah, we're not even cousins. We're not even second cousins, are we?
No.
Not related in any way, shape or form. Where the mix-up comes in is, and I don't know why Mark got with me, because I am, all his sisters are little, short and mouthy and a bit bossy. So why he ended up with me, I don't know, but I do get that people mistake me for one of his sisters, but no, they're miles better looking than me, aren't they, Mark? Miles better looking than me. And what are the others? What was the others we had? We've had a few, haven't we?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we had to move because we couldn't afford where we lived and we were made homeless. We had to move because some ridiculous stalker chased us and our family out of our family home. But when people stop you at the garage and stuff or in Walton and go, oh, Deb, have you moved? You're not going to go, yeah, and here's why I've moved. Stand there for 3 hours where they'll tell you. You just go, oh, yeah, rent were a bit much. Yeah, or like, yeah, we need a smaller property now. We've had to downsize. If I start going with the list, it'd be there forever. Our Erica in a one shop. Our Erica doesn't sell wands. She doesn't have a wand shop. She makes wands. If you and Erica talk and she feels you're in it, she will make you a personal wand and hand it to you for free. My poor daughter has never in her life made a penny off anybody. But I wanted to put them to bed because I'm sick of hearing them. I'm sick and tired of hearing these crazy rumours about me and him. We are perfectly happy. We are still together. We've still got Roy, that was the other one. I was in a flat on my own with Roy. No. If we ever split up, Mark's having that dog. I can't see to him. He's 40 kilo. Come here. Mum wants you. Come here so you can see Jojo. He's so used to not disturbing me when I make things up because he knows I'm working, he won't do it. But you can hear him clattering about, right?
Come here.
He's taller than me.
Get off the bowl.
And he only weighs 20 kilo less than me. And now he's trying to make Max pan of stew. Come here so Jojo can see you. No, just ignore him. There you are. Come here, I'll have to turn my camera so you can see him, Joe. Right. You there for Jojo. Oh, he's having none of it. He knows he's a pan of stew in there and he's much harder than that. Have you ate it all? Yeah, oh, Mark's at all the stew again.
No, the dog's not impressed with me.
He's really well trained, so when he knows, if he sees this setup, he knows I'm Zoom calling, I'm speaking to somebody for Fraying Our Productions, or I'm doing what I normally do, so he just chills out on the couch over there. But no, we ain't got rid of him or any of that. The saddest thing about our Roy, Joe Weeks works in dog rescue, and about 2 months ago, I seen her put a picture up of a dog that was from near my daughter's, and they'd had to rescue it, and I know for a fact 100% that was my Roy's breeder. And we had to save him from there, which tells me that they went on to have several other litters, because Roy's 3 in April. So they must have done it for 2 years after him. Yeah, and it was heartbreaking, but at least they, you know, they're in there now and they've taken them and they're safe. But yeah. But yeah, if you're ever interested in helping Joe out with a dog rescue, you let her know. You don't just rescue dogs. Sometimes you have to move them. So you got to move them from the bottom of the country to the top. So they do it in relays. Yeah, so like, if you get it to Tilsley and then I get it and then I drive it to and you just keep doing, that's what they do that. So she's always looking for help for things like that. And obviously she admins for Andy, don't you, Joe? So if you want to share Andy's link in here, Joe, because he's doing a marathon, isn't he? Big 24-hour live stream for everybody, and I'm sure you'll all enjoy that. Yeah. So let me see. Right, I think, because it's 9:30 and I don't want to upset anybody, yeah, because you've all got other live streams to go to. I'll be out and about all night on YouTube, so you never know, I might pop in one of them or not. But I would like to say while I'm here, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. It's been absolutely ages since I've done a live. So thank you for, being so patient with me. And I'm going to have a cup of tea and probably see what my husband's baked and go and have some of that as well. He's getting right good at that baking stuff, yeah. But yeah. So I would like to say, I can't name every single one of you. I've not got that much breath in me, right? We'll have to come up with a name for ourselves, won't we? You can't have the Northern Misfits, because that's what they call the production team. But we'll think of one for you all. BB Arbors is a bit, not really catchy, that one, is it? Yeah. So yeah, everyone needs more lives. Well, you stick with me, I can do that. That's easy peasy. We'll do that easy peasy. I'll just make sure nobody else is on at the time, and I'll just pop on and do the odd ad hoc one like we used to do. And like I say, I might be able to entice Deb and Stu back on. Yeah. But it was just we were just driving the other day, and Mark just went, "Why don't you just go live on Saturday after your premiere?" I was like, I didn't think of that. Yeah, I never thought of that, love. So yeah, let's do that. So on that note, I'll try, Brian, I'll try and get Roy on camera for you, I promise. I will try. Normally, I don't have much trouble with him. But he's now fighting back on the couch, as you can probably hear.
Get off that.
Yeah, he is. He's now battering Mark on the couch.
Get
Well,
off the
on that note, I shall see you all next week. Good night, everyone. Have a bloody lovely night. Now I've got to work out how to turn this off. Oh, crikey. And thanks, Joe. Thanks for admin for me, sweetheart. I know you got a lot on your plate. Right, let's see if Deb can end this.